In this week's episode of Working with Evernote, we're going to be looking at David Allen's tagging system. Hello, my name is Carl Pauline, and in this 65th episode of Working with Evernote, we are going to look at how David Allen organizes his Evernote. Now, I should point out that David Allen may not be using tags themselves. I have read or seen an interview with David Allen where he says tagging just overcomplicates things. And so maybe this isn't exactly how David Allen does it. However, the theory that I'm going to show you today is exactly how David Allen uses his Evernote. Now, let's get into this in a little bit more detail. You've got to remember that back in the day, we used to use filing cabinets to store our reference materials and documents and so on. Now, most people, most companies used what we call an alphanumeric system, and basically that just means A, B, C, D, E, F, G, use the alphabet. So if you were going to file something under that began with A, for example, Amsterdam, then you would put it under A and then a file called Amsterdam. If you had something like tax, well, tax would come under T for tax. Income tax could come under income tax, or it could come under, so I for income tax, or it could come under T for tax. Doesn't really matter. There was only ever two places that you needed to look to find whatever it is that you were looking for. But the key part of David Allen's filing system is essentially that what you're doing is just finding the best way to find your stuff later. So essentially, when you're processing, normally you're using your intelligent mind. But when you're looking for something, your rather dumb mind is looking, and therefore you have to create a filing system that is going to work when your dumb self is actually looking for this material. So what I'm going to do is, I haven't actually had time to change my system this week, but I'm going to show you essentially how he does it in Evernote so that you will get a really good idea about how you could do your filing. Now just remember, any kind of productivity tool, the key is to create a system that is as simple and as seamless as you can possibly make it. So we're always evolving our system and the way that we use things. This is why usually every year, or maybe every 6 months, I show you how I am using my Todoist, for example, because it does evolve and change over time. Evernote is the same thing. I have a system that works for me at the moment, but it could always be improving. So this episode, I want again to show you how we can simplify your searching for stuff in Evernote, because once you get over a few hundred notes, it does start to become a little bit more difficult to find things. Okay, before we get into Evernote, I really would just like to ask, if you like this video, click on the like button below, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, let's go into Evernote and let's have a look. Okay, so here we are in Evernote, or my copy of Evernote. And by the way, I just noticed in my inbox, because my weekly Working With newsletter went out yesterday, here is I always have it sent to myself. So if you want to keep all your email, if you want to get everything all together, all the videos that I do every week, in one place, and the blog posts that I write every week, then subscribe to the my newsletter. It is available in the comment section below, in the notes section below. You can very easily subscribe to my newsletter. Okay, so there we go. The really good example. We have here a newsletter. So what I would do is click a newsletter. I don't actually have a tag for that, but you can just click tag. Once you hit the return key creates a tag for you, so you don't have to go in and create these tags beforehand. So I can click return. I can send that into my, this would be personal, so click that in personal and move it. Now let's say now I want to go in and have a look and find that. So all I have to do is search notes, type in newsletter, and it brings up tags newsletter, and sure enough, there it is. So it just makes perfect sense. So when you're searching, to create tags that are alphanumeric, I know I used to do this before, and I now created a tag system that is actually quite complex, and I realize that maybe it's getting a little bit too complex. But if you look here, Evernote actually alphanumerically puts in your tags anyway. So for me here, I've created like these subtasks within here, only because I want to get the drop down menu. So for example, we'll go in here and I type in a tag for reference, I get these drop down menus. But actually when I think about it, that's actually quite slow, when really all I have to do is here is this is related to Netflix. So if I click on there and remove that, I can type in Netflix like that, click return, and now I've got a tag related to Netflix. So again, if I do into there and search my notes, Netflix, and it comes up tags note Netflix, or I can actually look at it all here. So it is just a really, really quick way of finding notes. And I just realized that this really is a much simpler way of tagging. And the problem, as I said in the introduction, is that we often get worried about how many tags we have, but you don't actually have to look in your tags at any specific time. They can just stay there. It's simply, really, you don't actually have to have a look in your notebooks, but you don't have to look in tags at all, because you can just have notes section here. You can have show all notes, so I click on that and it'll show all my notes, and I've got thousands of notes in here. But my tagging system can be alphanumeric, so all I have to do is type in even A, and it will start finding all the things related to A. It just makes life so much easier. And as long as you're tagging things, like here, I've got a note on Richard Branson. So the title of the article is 5 Lessons I Learned on Sir Richard Branson's Necker Island. But if I actually wanted to keep a lot of reference material on Richard Branson, then again, all I would do is just type, give this a tag of Richard Branson. And it's going to come up. I wouldn't necessarily use his title here, Sir, simply because that might confuse things. I would just use his name, Richard Branson, and that would be it. And you can create as many tags as you want related to that particular thing. And that is David Allen's tagging system. To be honest with you, as I say, I'm not entirely sure if he does use tagging system. I do remember now that it was on an episode of Mac Power Users where he mentioned about he doesn't like using tags. But if you do use tags, this is a really, really simple way of tagging your system. But remember, as I said in the introduction, what you have to remember is think about how your stupid self is going to be searching for the documents, and that's really important. Okay, thank you very much for watching this episode. I hope you found it very useful. I hope you gave it some ideas. All it remains for me to do now is to wish you all a very, very productive week.